Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. With Loomian Legacy's Atlantean update now being out and finally having picked up the game myself, I thought it'd be a lot of fun to explore the various types within the game, what their implications are, and how they interact with one another. If you've been around the channel for a while, you'd know that I've done similar styled videos for other monster taming games such as Nexomon, Coromon, Cassette, etc., and those other videos will be linked below should you want to check them out. I think understanding the type matchups is extremely important with any Pokemon-like experience, as some types come with special attributes that go beyond just their interactions with each other. Think Dark type being immune to Prankster in Pokemon, for example. Anyways, with all that being said, make sure to sit back, relax, and let's dive right in. Alright, so for starters, Loomian Legacy features 17 types, and any Loomian can be one or two of these types at a time. Some of these will be very familiar to Pokemon typings, just with different names, and others unique to the game. We're also going to be going over them one by one, covering their offensive capabilities, and by the end of the video, we'll also have their defensive capabilities as a result. First up, we have the Typeless type, which apparently counts as a type. Now, this type essentially covers all of the Loomian that don't belong to any other typings. This is basically your normal type equivalent. I think Basic or Standard would have been a better name, because I think Typeless could cause confusion, making it sound like it's an attack-only type or something like that. This type does not do super effective damage against anything, and hits Ice, Metal, and Spirit for weakened damage. It is also weak to Mind and Brawler, but like I said, we will cover the defensive interactions of every type as we're discussing the offensive interactions. Next, we've got the Fire type, which encompasses the Loomian that utilize fire and or heat. The Fire type has a couple of inherent attributes. Firstly, all fire types are unsurprisingly immune to the burn status, and secondly, fire types being sent out can partially melt Loomian's version of entry hazards in the form of Icicle Trap. Fire is advantageous to Plant, Ice, and Metal, which all makes sense, and Dark, which maybe is just for balance, but if you were to apply a theme to it, maybe it's the idea of cleansing the darkness with fire. But I do think that might fit the Spirit type better, so I'm not 100% sure why they decided to go with fire being dark. Maybe it's because the fire emits a light, thus making it less dark. Who knows? It does less damage to other fire types, ancient types, which we'll explain later, water, and light. Speaking of light, next up is the light type that encompasses Loomian that utilize luminosity in combat. Light types have no inherent special attributes other than being absorbed by a specific ability, which is more of that ability's attribute rather than the type itself. Light is advantageous against Dark and Spirit, which makes sense, as well as ancient, which again, we're going to discuss in a bit. Light does less damage to other light types, and Mind, perhaps because the Mind type Loomian, which is like Pokemon's psychic equivalent, are already enlightened, if you will. Light does no damage to Plant, since plants absorb light to grow. Okay, so ancient type is kind of like a dragon slash dino or like fossil type mixed into one. It unsurprisingly encompasses monsters that are ancient. It's advantageous against other ancient types, and Spirit, perhaps since these things have essentially avoided death by living for so long despite their age. It's not very effective against Metal, because I mean, have you seen your grandma try to work a computer? And Light, which honestly I have no clue as to why from a thematic perspective. Let me know in the comments if you have any idea of that. Next up, we have the Spirit type, which covers the Loomian that are ethereal in nature. These types are advantageous against Brawler, Mind, and other ethereal types, which makes sense, and are disadvantageous against Dark and Ancient. It also has no effect on Light. Dark types encompass those that are mischievous or even evil in nature. It's advantageous against Light, making for both types being super effective on one another, as well as Mind, which is pretty standard, and Plant, probably because the Dark does not allow them to grow because plants need light to survive. The Plant type involves Loomian that are rooted in, well, plants. These types are immune to all powder-based moves. They're advantageous against water and earth, and disadvantageous against other plants, fire, bug, ancient, and toxic. More or less self-explanatory. I think it being resisted by ancient is kind of strange, because generally speaking, when you have something that's very old, plant life will grow on top and through it, but I think they're just trying to make ancient like dragon, and that's why it resists it. The earth type contains a Loomian that are non-metallic mineral based. This type seems to combine the ground and rock type from Pokemon, hence the 17 types in Loomian as opposed to 18. They're advantageous against fire, electric, toxic, and metal, resisted by plant and bug, and have no effect on air. All of this is pretty much identical to the ground type effects in Pokemon. Next up is the electric type, which is immune to paralysis. It's advantageous to water and air, which is standard, and metal, which makes sense because metal is highly conductive. It's not very effective against plant, other electric types, ancient, and spirit. Ancient, again, probably just because they're trying to replicate the dragon type from Pokemon in a sense. And spirit, maybe because some people have associated spirits with having an effect on the electricity around them, but that's just my initial thought. It has no effect on earth, which again, pretty standard. The metal type is basically what Pokemon Steel type should have been called, essentially encompassing any metallic monster. It's very effective against ancient, ice, and light, probably because metal reflects light. It's disadvantageous to fire, water, electric, and other metal types. The ice type embodies the coldest of the Loomian, whom are also immune to the freeze status and icicle trap entry hazards. This type is advantageous against plant, earth, bug, and air, and is disadvantageous to fire, water, ice, metal, and brawler. All pretty self-explanatory. I say this even for Brawler because Brawler, being the sort of fighting type, represents the pretty common practice of using martial arts to break ice boards. The Brawler type encompasses Loomian that are fighters. It's advantageous against ice, typeless, metal, and bug. And perhaps bug because they're agile enough to squash them, I guess? Interesting because in Pokemon, bug resists fighting. It's disadvantageous to air, mind, and toxic, and immune to ghost, all of which I think is pretty self-explanatory. The toxic type includes both poisonous and venomous Loomian, all of which are immune to the poison status themselves. The type is good against water, plant, and brawler, and disadvantageous against earth, other toxic types, and spirit. The water type encompasses the aquatic Loomian. It's advantageous to fire, earth, and electric, which I guess is due to the idea of short-circuiting, and it's disadvantageous to water, plant, and ancient. So much like dark and light, water and electric are both weak to each other. The mind type consists of the most intelligent Loomian, all of which are immune to the move Hypnotize. They're advantageous against typeless, toxic, and brawler, which are pretty self-explanatory, and disadvantageous to dark, metal, and mind itself, similar to Pokemon's psychic type. The air type consists of the Loomian that embody the winds and or flight innately. Air types, much like flying in Pokemon, are super effective against brawler and bug, but also fire in this case, which makes sense because if a large enough gust of wind is brought to a smaller fire, it will put it out. Think about blowing a candle out. It's disadvantageous to ice, electric, and metal. Finally, we have the bug type, which consists of any insects, arachnids, etc. It's good against plant, dark, and mind, which is similar to Pokemon again, and bad against fire, bug, metal, air, and brawler. And there you go, guys, a step-by-step look at the Loomian Legacy type chart. I've decided that moving forward for these type breakdown videos, that it doesn't make sense to explain every single interaction with regards to why it exists. For example, saying that fire burns plants, hence why fire beats plant or nature or whatever sort of grass type equivalent said game has, is super redundant. You guys know the basic stuff. I don't need to explain the obvious. That said, let me know if you guys did enjoy this video and what other types of Loomian Legacy and or monster taming content you'd like to see. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, by the way, definitely consider doing so because I put out new monster taming videos every single day. You could also check out my Discord, my Patreon, my Twitter, all links below. Special thanks to the patrons, especially Jim Hamilton, Steel Case, Dark Persona, and Dro Ghost, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.